Welcome to Miniatures Rundown. We are here with a new game. Well, new. It's about a week old by the time you guys see it.
Yeah.
We have Space Station Zero.
Yeah. Ta-da!
New miniatures-agnostic game from Snarling Badger's Studios.
Studios, because Snarling Badger game is something else and is defunct.
From like 30 years ago.
They tried.
Forgive the Rain and Hell joke, because that was the first game made by Snarling Badger.
Which is also a fantastic game, but for completely different reasons, as we will get into.
That one's about demons, and it's a miniatures-agnostic game. This one is a miniatures-agnostic game that is about science fiction.
Yeah.
Kind of all of it.
Yeah.
I mean that in a good way.
Yeah, so it's important to note that Rain and Hell is a miniatures-agnostic skirmish game, primarily designed for campaign play. Right?
It's designed for PvP campaign play.
Campaign.
That's that's the big thing.
And
Rain and Hell is you versus your friend or friends in campaign. Your demons fight each other, they level up.
Yeah.
It has a solo/co-op expansion called Oculus Spear, which came out separately.
Yes. However,
Space Station Zero
is Space Station Zero's mama was a role-playing game.
Yeah.
And his daddy was
Rain and Hell.
Well, Rain and Hell.
Yeah. His daddy was a D12.
Yeah. Woohoo!
A lot of D12s, actually.
A lot of D12s.
Don't think about it too much. So yeah, so I guess what you're getting at here is that this one has a much firmer focus on co-op /solo, but I think it shines in co-op.
I imagine it's just fine, but yeah, no, the point of this game is, I hate to say point, it's not really the point, but the
strength,
the baker's, not the baker's dozens, but the biggest chunk of this game is devoted to
yeah, this book is roughly twice as long.
Yes.
And that's because a huge chunk of it is branching campaign missions.
Yeah.
But let's crack it open from the beginning.
Yeah. Let's take this from the top.
This is not going to be a man reads book, because we want you to because we want you to get your own.
Yes.
We got ours spiral bound. We spiral bound our PDFs.
We know a guy.
Yeah, we know Kinko's.
Yeah.
I did actually order a soft cover. It shipped yesterday.
Yeah.
So
I'm waiting on time.
Yeah. So hopefully, I'll get my actually soft cover. If you buy the soft cover, you get a PDF, which is kind of nice. I like when they do that.
It's a smart thing to do.
Let's start with the story.
So, in the heart of deepest space, millions of years from the nearest system star or planet.
That's important.
I mean, light years are years.
Fair enough.
Resides an improbable structure floating in the silent darkness. Massive and ancient beyond imagination, it sleeps, waiting for wayward travelers to find their new home.
So the story of Space Station Zero is that every culture eventually discovers faster than light space travel.
Yes.
And all faster than light space travel is imperfect.
Yes.
So most of the time, if you fail, you just blow up. You just explode. Or you
you're lucky if you explode.
Or you fall into the warp and demons eat your brain.
Or
something like that.
Or you get
atomized or stretched or whatever.
Yeah, you get spaghettified.
But every now and then, someone screws up their warp jump, or their light speed jump, or their hyperspace, or their wormhole, or their
space fold,
or their space fold, or what's the name? What's the one from or their wrinkle? Their wrinkle in time.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there's a callback. And they end up in the void, with stars are millions of light years away. You could not possibly reach them.
In what's called dead space. If you're familiar with the phrase dead space,
it's where the Reapers were hiding in Mass Effect.
Yeah, it's literally the space between spaces.
Yeah.
That nobody can get through because there's nothing there.
And there's just a space station. This massive, colossal space station that hails you in your language.
Inexplicably.
Space Station Zero will accept you. Dock Zero is open.
It's also worth noting, this is not Space Station
No,
Zero.
that's just a ship. That's
just one of the ships, yes.
So imagine, like, I guess kind of calling back Blackstone Fortress, but a million times bigger. And
yes, that's right. There's something in the miniature wargaming space that has outsized something.
Finally!
Yeah.
Once you pull into Space Station Zero, you find hundreds of thousands of other people who have also fallen into Space Station Zero. And it's fine. There's air. There's food. Everybody can understand each other's languages for inexplicable reasons.
Babblefish.
That are not inexplicable. They are explained much later.
Actually explained, but whatever.
There's nothing to do.
Yeah.
I think it even says your only thing you can do is die of space alcoholism.
Facing an empty existence of slow death from alcoholism, many crews turn to the only thing they can actually do. explore the recesses and try and find something interesting to do.
Yeah, basically it's like, well, we can't leave because it's so far away that no one could make the jump.
Yeah.
You'd all die of old age. We can't just stay here and die. I mean, we can. So grab your gear and dive into the space station. Maybe there's something worth finding. And the space station is this massive, incredibly advanced technology labyrinth that has fallen into disrepair. So that's what the game is it's kind of harking back to like Stargrave.
Yeah.
Where you make a crew led by a captain. Mechanically, it's not a little different. Mechanically, it's a lot different.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say it's Stargrave by way of Necromunda. Because you are building a crew, you have one dude at the top of the heap, you gain experience in kind of similar fashion.
Yeah. Stargrave by way of Necromunda by way of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes, and that's the other large piece of.
So we mentioned earlier that this one is really campaign focused. Reign in Hell had an overarching story, which was post-apocalypse in Hell, and the demons are squabbling over who's going to rebuild Hell.
Yeah,
maybe to no point. Maybe it's all doomed.
Maybe they never do. Yeah,
right. This one, but there's no real like end of campaign.
Yeah.
There's no story missions. It's fight your way to the top.
This, on the other hand,
this one is think something like Blackstone Fortress or Hero Quest. It's a kind of a dungeon crawler skirmish game.
Space dungeon crawler.
Yeah. There are actual story missions, and it's a branching. Yeah. So you complete the first mission, and then you roll, and then it
for
goes to
you
different
video
missions.
gamers out there, this is very similar to what you would call a roguelike. Or roguelite
sort of
in this case.
Not quite. You don't die quite as often.
No, but as you go through the branch, it branches off in predictable ways
until eventually it comes way back at the very end.
Comes back around to a head
in spoiler territory, which I didn't read. But their last
neither of us.
The last eight measures are
eight measures.
The last 8 missions are marked as spoilers, and clearly something's going on there.
Yeah,
I'll wait to actually play it.
I want to be pleasantly surprised.
Yes, or horrifically unpleasantly surprised.
Well, I'm pleasantly surprised, but also like bowel-churningly horrified by the,
cosmic implications of our pointless existing, or something like that. Who knows? Maybe it's just cake. Oh God, that was a Portal reference. I didn't even mean to make one. I was just hungry.
Yeah, now I'm thinking about cake.
Sorry.
Anyway, let's think about games.
So that's kind of the story. You are a space station. You are a ship crew.
Yeah.
You land. The actual crew building in this I like because it's very guided. There's a problem in miniatures-agnostic games where it's kind of you can use whatever mini you want.
Cool.
It's like when I say, "Hey CJ, tell a joke."
I can't.
Yeah, hey,
I'm not allowed to.
Yeah.
My go-to is
tell a joke about 40K players.
Well, let me tell you, son.
That's easy. It's easier when you have guidelines. This one has guidelines. So you pick what kind of crew you were. Are. Sorry. What kind of crew you are. Page 24 is creating a crew.
Page 24.
You pick from. So you pick a crew type, and your crew type dictates how many crew members you have. So you can pick 4, 6, or 8 crew members and a captain, and that's it. That's just the only options. You're either going to have 4 mains on your team, so 5, 7, or 9. And if you pick 4 guys, they have better stats. If you pick 8 guys, they have way worse stats.
Yeah.
If you pick 6, they're in the middle.
6 is nice. 6 is good. 6 works out just fine.
Thank you. This is that kind of, you can pick whether you're playing super elite guys, like are you playing basically Space Marines? Are you playing basically Space Skaven and have ultra disposable?
Or are you in the middle? Are you playing, the Enterprise crew, basically?
Yeah. And then after you pick your crew type, your crew size, you pick a ship type.
Yep. So medical,
science,
war,
shipping, pirate, and exploration.
Exploration. Now, incidentally, exploration is the crew type that I chose for my particular standout one,
which I think we'll dive into in
a little bit.
Yeah,
but everything has. So the commander has its own special ability.
Yep, I called him your captain. He's your commander.
Yeah,
sorry.
Captain, commander, captain.
This guy looks like he's doing the JoJo reference. I just got to kind of point that out.
Oh yeah, they're all JoJo references.
Pillarfish assemble.
So you get a crew type, and you have, depending on what kind of ship you've got, you have requirements for what those crews in have.
So if you pick the science crew,
Yeah.
half of your crew needs to be scientists.
Mm-hmm.
If you pick the military crew, half of your crew needs to be military.
If you pick the exploration crew, ooh,
Yeah.
You have to have one member of each.
And pirates can do whatever they want.
Yeah, because they're pirates.
Because they're pirates.
Yeah.
So it's a guided choice system.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite as freeform as something like Stargrave,
No.
where you get to pick, a captain of any type and a first mate of basically any type.
Yeah.
And then you just fill your crew with whatever. And Stargrave encourages you to pick things along the same lines, but you don't have to.
Yeah, there's no requirements in Stargrave, which is both good and bad.
It's freeing, but also paralyzing. Space Station Zero kind of guides you along a way.
Yeah.
But if you want the freeing one, you pick exploration,
Right.
Because that just lets you pick whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And then every crew has a little edge, so you don't pick your species. What you do is you pick an edge.
Yes.
An edge is kind of your species bonus. It is worth noting that your entire crew has the same edge.
Yeah,
so
everybody has the same one.
it's kind of implying that your crew is all one culture or species.
Yeah,
or
you're
something like
definitely-
that, because they all came to the space station together.
Yeah. You may not all be the same race, but you are all of the same Federation, Empire.
Yeah,
Planet.
hegemony.
Yes,
Hegemony.
Yes.
I'm thinking Enter the Gungeon now. Like,
Yeah.
no, I'll just make Bulletkin crew.
Yeah, but if it works, it works.
And your edge can range from everything from like everyone here is a psychic,
Or everybody's in power armor.
or everyone's a shapeshifter.
Yeah, or one of my personal favorites is the Time Masters.
That's right. You can play the Doctor.
Yep, you can play the Doctor and all of his buddies.
My personal favorite is the Parasites, where everyone in your crew is a parasite that just is controlling a body. So when you die,
Mhm.
you just jump to another body.
Yeah.
You don't die until you run out of bodies to jump to.
It's
Which is
just
great.
now.
And then once you've got your crew and your crew types
Yes.
and your ship types, you can actually start equipping them.
Mhm.
And the equipment is very general.
Yeah, you get general equipment, which is like the most generic thing you could possibly imagine. A scanner. Now, a scanner could look like an Auspex, or it could look like a guy looking at his wristwatch on a miniature. Hint, hint. Alternatively, it could be whatever. It could be attached to their helmet.
And everything is very non-specific to a certain game system.
Yes.
So, for example, the sidearm is just a sidearm.
Yeah.
It's not called plasma pistol, las pistol, bolt pistol, bullet
Phaser.
pistol, phaser, laser cannon, whatever. It's just a sidearm.
Mm.
The energy weapon is just called an energy weapon.
Yeah.
It's not, there's nothing that's super, super specific.
Heavy kinetic missile weapon. What is that? It's a bullet.
Well, it's whatever heavy kinetic missile weapon you want it
or
to be.
it's a freaking missile.
Right. That's like, it's
Yeah.
just, the point is that you can kind of use any mini you want.
Yeah.
And any gun you want without being hyper-specific.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes it easier to bring in whatever you want. Because two models can be holding two different kinds of guns, but they're just both energy weapons. It's fine. So after you created your crew, that's when you actually start playing the game. And this is where we get into the mission structure. So the mission structure, if you're playing campaign,
Yes.
there's two versions of the game. There is the campaign story mode, which is designed to be played either solo or co-op. I think it shines better in co-op.
Inclined to agree, yes.
And there is PvP skirmishes. The PvP skirmishes are kind of one-offs. They're not really designed to be fought with you don't play a campaign with those.
Right.
You could. They've hinted that there is going to be an alternate game mode coming out with the first FAQ. They're dropping next week, I think. That will clarify some rules things and also add like some other ways to play.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to. Generally, if you want to play the campaign, you play either solo or co-op. You play the first mission, and then after that, it's a rolling dice.
Yep.
And so you joked at the beginning that this game's mom was an RPG.
Oh, it was.
And that's not us making this up. That comes from one of the designers, Venturella, who said that this is an idea that has been rattling around his head for a decade as an RPG.
Yeah.
And you can absolutely see that baked into the DNA.
Oh, yeah.
Combat is only about a quarter of the challenges in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Only half the equipment is combat equipment. Only half of the crew members are like combat focused. You also have people like science officers and
Medics
medical officers
and engineers.
This is not like Stargrave or or Frostgrave or Blackstone Fortress, where you have people from different backgrounds, but really they're all just an excuse to have different ways to shoot at each other.
Yeah, they've all got everybody's armed to the teeth.
Yeah, this one there are absolutely combat challenges. There are robots and mutants, but there's also like a laser defense system that you need to be able to dodge.
Otherwise, you're going to get Resident Evil.
Yeah. Cut to... Was that Lawrence Fishburne?
No.
In that first one? No. Who was it?
It was...
The guy who looks a bit like Lawrence Fishburne, but isn't.
It's a character actor from Arrow.
Yeah. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he gets gridded.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's things to hack. One of the missions has a chemical reaction accidentally starts occurring in a defunct science lab. Oops. And you need to unchemical reaction it by applying the right other chemicals before the whole thing just detonates. You need a chemist for that.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of non-combat challenges and tests that you really want to have a well-rounded team, which is why I think it shines in co-op.
Yes.
Because most of the teams, except exploration, aren't particularly well-rounded.
No.
They focus on one thing.
Shocker, I know.
Right, but it's by design. By playing with a friend or friends, that lets you cover each other's bases. Like I'm playing a medical team and you're playing a science team. And Mitchell's playing a war team and Sean's playing a pirate team. We all have things we... Yeah, I was just coming up with stuff that kind of did.
No, that tracks.
We all have things that cover each other's bases, which I really like. Again, a very far cry from Rain and Hell.
Extremely.
Like, the running joke for the lead up to this game has been Rain and Space Hell, but it's really not that similar to Rain and Hell.
Really not.
It's really not.
It's honestly... You know, for all the jokes that have been made and will continue to be made.
And for which I'm responsible for at least 30% of them. And I'm very sorry.
Yeah, well, you and Brent can talk to them about that.
No, the other one's Noob Painter. He's responsible for the other 30%. And he's not sorry.
But yeah, no, it's really quite remarkable how not Rain and Space Hell this is.
But there is one thing that is absolutely Rain and Hell.
Yes.
And that's our beloved friend, the D12 is back. So
not just for barbarians anymore.
No,
baby.
In Rain and Hell, your D12s were your initiative system. Basically, you rolled D12s equal to the number of guys you had in your team, and then you ranked them.
You're rolling hot.
Yeah, I'm rolling hot tonight.
Yeah.
In this game, everything is D12 based. Like that's the only dice you ever roll is a D12, and all dice rolling is called a challenge or a test, a combat test. So combat is if you and I are shooting at each other, and I'm shooting at you, I roll my combat stat. I might get bonuses depending on my gun. So I would roll. Probably should roll on camera.
Jeez
wow,
Louise, dude.
Yeah, good luck beating that. So here's the funny thing: in Space Station Zero, successes are just evens.
Yes,
and odds are failures. 12s are critical successes, but you need 2 12s to get a crit success. D&D, this ain't.
Not quite.
And 2 1s is a critical failure.
Which I will now proceed to roll.
Yes. So CJ would then, if we were having a combat test, which is my character shooting at his, he would then roll his own combat stat, which could be buffed by things like armor. So again, we both rolled all evens, which is amazing because
So yeah, no.
Neither of us rolled any failures.
I was gonna say when Josh went through the bins at the store to get some D12s, he did happen to pick the ones that rolled nothing but evens.
Apparently. There we go. There's a 3. That's a failure. So the failure wouldn't count, and then we would measure our number of successes.
Yes.
A crit success, 2 12s counts as double.
Right.
So even though you got 1 12, that's not a success. There's also, but it's not just evens and odds. There's also target numbers. So if you're wearing armor,
I would need to, like an armor jacket, your target number is now 4.
Right. I would need to roll evens that are 4 or higher.
Yes.
Not just evens.
It's not as hard as you might think.
Right. But well, that's
But it changes the dynamic.
And in the campaign, there's robots and things that have a lot higher than 12 or than 4 as their target number.
But one of the edges is everybody's in armor, which means that their target number is always 6,
which is handy.
Which is really handy, and that's pretty durable.
But that system is used for all the tests. So if I needed to hack something, the hacking difficulty would have maybe a required number of successes and a target number. Let's say it would be successes. I needed 3 successes, and the target number was 4. I would need to roll however many dice I had in my intelligence skill if I had a bonus to hacking. So if I only had 4, once again, I am just really rolling hot here. So I would succeed that. Yeah. So
by the skin of your teeth, might I add.
If I needed 5 successes, I couldn't beat that.
Yeah, you'd be SOL. Yeah.
So there's challenges that require you to roll a success or to complete it once, but there's also longer form challenges where you might have a guy hacking a computer over several turns while being shot at by robots, and your team has to defend him, and he needs to get 10 successes.
I hate those missions.
Those are the 10 successes ones. And so like you have to keep rolling every turn until you get 10.
Yeah.
So it's not just combat is what I'm getting at, but it all uses the same system, so it's not confusing either.
Yeah. No, it's evens or odds, pass, fail.
Yep, it's very confused. It's a very not confusing. Yeah. It's very confusing, no. It's very not confusing.
It's intentionally not confusing.
It does have permadeath, so when your guys die, they die.
Yeah, they are super dead.
I've not looked forward into it too much. There are very limited ways to get more crew members or to bring people back. Generally, it's kind of expected that you will not make it through the campaign on your first shot. You will get murderized by the space station.
Yeah, that's what happens.
But I like the challenge system a lot. I like the odds, the way odds versus evens works, but also there's target numbers. I know you like the D6 system.
I won't say I like the D6 system, but I'm used to it to the point where it's ingrained in me.
Right. That is a challenge this game is facing, is that the D12 is kind of a rarity, which does 2 things. One, it kind of obfuscates the math a little. Like, I know off the top of my head that every pip on a D6 is 16.67%.
Yeah.
And I know vaguely...
It's been hammered into us.
I know vaguely how re-rolling those affects those, and I know how pluses or minuses affect those. But the D6 system is also very limited because there's only 6 states of...
of success.
Yeah, there's only 6 levels of success or failure. 12 is a heck of a lot more, but it's odds or evens, so that adds another kink.
Yeah.
And then there's target numbers and bonuses that adds other kinks.
Yeah, it definitely... you can math hammer this out. We don't recommend it.
And I think the game itself does not recommend it.
No.
This is more pushing towards a narrative feeling, and I think the math itself kind of pushes towards that, which I like.
Yeah, never tell my D&D group that you can't math hammer something out because they will take it as a challenge.
I mean, and to me, that's just not having fun playing D&D.
Yeah.
But that's me. Mm-hmm. Your mileage may vary. So you said you made us a sample team.
I sure did. So let's take a look at the crew of what I'm just going to assume is the flexible demeanor. Shout out to all my culture.
I have to zoom in on that.
I'll make a digital version of this, I guess, or something.
You should scan this and upload it.
So. Anyway, I've got a 6-person crew here.
Now, where did you get the crew roster, CJ?
I printed it off on SnarlingBadgerStudios.com.
Yeah, you can just go to the website.
Yeah, it's free. It literally says permission granted to reproduce.
It's also in the back of the book, I think.
Yeah.
So you can scan it.
Yeah, but there's a separate.
And if you get the PDF, you can just print it off of that. So yeah, nice roster.
Thank you.
It's easy to access and use, unlike some things.
Yeah. So say hello to my crew of not Spartans. Nartans. Yeah. So these guys, it's important to note. Actually,
led by Gnasher Teeth.
Mr. Chef. Commander doesn't have a name yet. Has to earn that name first. But yeah, I've actually specifically kind of painted these guys up in the closest thing I could get to something resembling what the art of the book is. Kind of because they're teal, and then they're also metallic teal and metallic green, just to kind of, because I was like, I don't know what to paint these guys up as, so whatever. But anyway, so Captain over here is our survival specialist, wearing an armored jacket, has an energy missile weapon and a melee weapon that is holstered at his back, I am sure. Is also wielding a hyper scanner, which is a piece of science kit. Because it's an exploration ship, I have to have one of each before I can go for anybody else. So I have an engineer, a medic, a soldier, and a pilot.
Okay.
Ace pilot.
Now you went for, what crew size did you pick?
6.
CJ, you did this wrong.
I know.
You get 6 crew and then a commander.
And then the
yes.
commander, yes.
So you get one more dude.
Yeah. So what that guy is going to be is a regular pilot.
Okay.
It's But yeah, so regardless of any of that, hey, fun fact, kids, don't try to make a roster at 3:30 in the morning.
Or take enough energy pills to see God and do it anyway.
Point being, yeah, this was supposed to be a 6-person crew. Mm-hmm. There's one that is currently drying. So the point is that I've got an engineer, and he's got the advanced tech kit, hyperscanner, mini lab kit, and then what they've got base, Mm-hmm. Both of the soldiers have armored jackets. The pilot has an armored jacket, and so does the captain. So everybody else is kind of running around with their butt hanging out. But
sure, but hopefully they aren't getting shot at as much.
Fingers crossed. But in the case that they do get shot at, these are nanotech guys, and they will heal 1 wound every turn.
So pretty durable.
Yeah.
So speaking of getting shot at, something
Yes.
we didn't mention, this is a campaign solo game,
Right.
or solo co-op game. So it does have an AI system.
Yes.
It is drastically more simple than something like Blackstone Fortress or Cursed City.
Ooh, and boy, is it.
It's very, very... So the AI is only really for combat stuff, and it's pretty clear. Mm-hmm. If it's an enemy that wants to move into melee, it tries to move into melee at the closest guy.
Yeah.
If it wants to
starts, if I'm in combat, I will attack the person I'm in combat with. If I'm not in combat, I will shoot the guy that I am closest to if I have the option to do so.
It's like a paragraph on one page.
Yeah,
it is very simple to follow. It is not a huge chart that you have to constantly reference. And I love that, because that was a big problem I had with Blackstone Fortress, is that I'm just... You rolling a dice to see what he does, and then you're constantly referencing this chart, but then you also have to reference the character sheet, because the Negavolt cultist does a different thing on a 19, and the Beastman does a different thing on a 4. And it's
mercifully, Cursed City is a lot simpler.
Cursed City is better.
Yeah, it has 3 options, basically. But yeah, none of that is an issue here.
And just like the Cursed City expansion, this one doesn't come with any minis. We'll talk about that.
We'll catch you on the next one for that.
Yeah. Digging at other products. Anyway,
we know exactly what happened with that one.
Do we?
I mean, I think we can...
Moving on.
Yeah, I think we can make a reasonable explanation.
Anyway, but yeah, so you built a sample crew. You got to get one more. I see that you put a couple of them on Necromunda bases.
Yeah, those are the those Necromunda bases are there because, for one thing, that helps differentiate them. Mm-hmm. Because without having specific weaponry assigned to them, it's hard to tell them apart. Mm. But if they're on Necromunda bases, then that tells me who's what.
It also just kind of looks like a space station.
It really does.
Necromunda bases are perfect for space station-y looks.
I also made a little C on the bottom of this one because he's my commander. And then there's an E on the bottom of this one because he's the engineer.
But then you have to lift them up and check during the game.
Yeah.
You should put a giant E on his helmet.
This is the medic, though you'd be forgiven for not noticing.
He's a combat medic.
Yeah. I mean, they're all combat medics.
Physicians shoot themselves.
So, fun story, I actually put medical bags on the soldiers.
Oops.
No, that was intentional.
Oh.
Because they're the ones that are going to be up in the front lines and covering each other's butts. So if one of them gets their face...
Murderized.
Well, I was going to say gets their face rocked in, the other guy can just be like, get up.
Physician, heal thyself? No, I'll do it for you. All right.
And then the medic is there like, yeah, no, he's got the rest of the stuff there.
But building a team is pretty simple.
Oh, yeah, it's dirt simple. Again, I made this at 3:30 in the morning. And other than the fact that I'm short a dude...
easily rectified.
Easily rectified, yeah. Because I was juggling between do I want 4 and do I want 6, and I ended up... But, you can build this, if you have minis ready to go already, if you're a 40k player, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or if you've got a Blackstone Fortress set, the ability to pick up and play this game is almost, if it weren't for the D12 system, which may be a problem for some wargamers, but definitely not a problem if you're a D&D player, the ability to pick up this and play this game is almost comical.
Yeah, the only downside to being able to easily get stuff for this is that the D12, I had to go out and buy 10 of them, or 12 of them, because I don't have a bunch of D12 sitting around except for Rain and Hell.
Yeah.
And even then you only needed however many units you had.
Mm-hmm.
This one needs a lot more D12s. This one needs like 15
Your
D12s.
basic combat check, I think they said you are going to need, if you have a couple of soldiers in there, you're going to need like at minimum 9, which is a lot.
If people are rolling different ones, yeah.
Right, but
which you kind of want to do because you want to keep track of successes and failures.
Right, but like it was like combat specialist gives you +2, plus your basic combat skill, plus your say heavy melee or heavy kinetic missile weapon gives you 9 on a basic combat check, which is, I mean, I'm sitting there looking at that like lusting after it for something in 40K. Like I don't want to roll 9 dice for this.
Yeah, someone throwing 9 dice is throwing a lot of dice in 40K. Like that's a tank. That's a Punisher cannon going off.
That's half of a Punisher cannon going off.
Sure,
but yeah,
not with my rolls.
Well, inability to roll aside because we're both in that boat. It's dirt simple to do.
So speaking of dirt simple to do and things you want for this game, let's talk terrain.
Yeah.
So this is recommended to play on a 22 by 30 board.
Yes.
If you play with 4 people, you can bump that up. You just need to expand the game accordingly. If you play with only 1 or 2 people, it's fine. The amount of terrain required is not that much.
No.
It takes place in a space station, but you don't like the Kill Team Galadark just dropped. Went for pre-order as day of recording. You do not need that level of tight corridors.
No.
It's a massive space station, so it's kind of like a live-in space station where things are really big. There's verticality you can use. All of the missions have recommended terrain setups in them and layouts for missions, which is very, very nice. Kind of reminds you of Warcry.
Yeah.
The way the Warcry board just goes boop. And that is the same board size as old Kill Team and Warcry because Galadark has a different board size now. Because GW. Anyway, so it's pretty simple. Terrain, you could use any kind of sci-fi space terrain, works wonders. Again, calling back to the ones that most people have. 40K.
If you've got,
Stargrave, Frostgrave.
If you've got a Zone Mortalis, this would probably, you don't have to get that.
No, that is the one thing. I think this is something that Adam Loper, one of the other designers, commented on stream, is that you don't want to be that tight.
No.
That's a little too tight.
No, but you can use it. Yeah, you can space it out. You can still use it, but
use it for a basic idea. Yeah, maybe some of the breakout walls. So it's pretty easy to get. The only thing that's not like super easy to get is D12s, but that's just because you don't have them around.
Yeah.
And if you have a local game store, I'm sure they have D12s. I had to buy mine from our store, but they were 85 cents a piece. So the only hard thing is it's not as easy to find like fun D12s that aren't like expensive and don't come in RPG packs I don't care about.
Yeah.
That's the other downside.
We got some metal ones that'll be great. Anyway.
I think the only other downside that we kind of talked about, we kind of touched on, is that if you're looking for a skirmish war game that is just that, this might not. Well, I don't know about that because I think
I'd say that maybe a little sight unseen.
The combat system, because it's pretty simple, that's both it also has a ceiling on how complicated it can get. So if you're used to something like Kill Team with its billion rules or Necromunda with its 800,000 trillion million billion rules, which I love Necromunda, that was not an insult.
Skillion, William,
but it has more rules than the book.
Yes.
If you're used to those, this combat is going to seem simplistic by comparison.
Yeah.
And if you are just looking for a war game that you just sit down and play that every single week, like people do for Warcry or Kill Team, this probably isn't quite that. And I don't think it's trying to be.
No, it's definitely not. This is your D&D crew has been playing Dungeons and Dragons proper for years and needs something different. And Spelljammer is great, but it's still very much D&D.
Yes.
So they're burned out and they want something new. This is how you convert people who are used to playing Dungeons and Dragons into war games.
So this is like a gateway game for D&D players. That's not a bad look on it, actually. I didn't think about that.
No, you could be a lot. Yeah, you could do a lot worse.
No, you could do way worse. This is good for that. I was thinking this is more if you are looking for co-op more than PvP.
Yeah.
This is absolutely this is sit down with friends and play a game night every week kind of thing.
If you are a BattleTech player and you're tired of beating the crap out of each other, you can BattleTech. You can take your BattleTech minis and put them in this.
And I don't want to be down on the PvP because I think it's still
Yeah.
fun. But I just think that if you're only playing the PvP, you're missing what makes this game great.
You're missing about 60 pages of the rule book.
Sure, but I don't read the lore in my GW books, so I'm always missing 60 pages. That's actually not true. I read the lore. Mitchell doesn't read the lore.
That's because he's weird.
Right. But I just think that this game shines in the co-op setting.
Inclined to agree.
If you play the campaign. And mostly that's because I want to read those spoiler chapters, so I need to like Shanghai some people into playing a campaign with me.
I'm right here.
And then get very angry when they lose.
I'm right here.
And then get very angry when they lose.
I'm right here. So speaking of
speaking of losing,
there's speaking of absolutely nothing you just said, there is a very specific aesthetic to this.
Yeah,
the art in here. So
move your dudes.
Yeah.
Whoop.
No,
yeah,
my dudes.
Like shout out to the art. I think this is the last thing we'll talk about.
Yeah.
Thing that people care about the least because they're boring.
It's
I
true.
love this kind of, for lack of a better term.
This is punk.
Yeah, it's punk. It's space punk.
This is actual punk, not
space punk. Yeah, I love that space punk aesthetic. I want to paint a team that looks kind of like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like this guy is, first off, he just fell in from Rain and Hell.
Oh yeah,
that is clearly
he's
a demon.
staggered in from Rain and Hell.
But he's wearing a great coat.
Yeah, no, he stole it from Imperial Commissar.
He stabbed an Imperial Commissar, stole his stuff,
and
I'm glad that Abe from Hellboy has decided to join us.
Mm-hmm.
And just a dude.
Yeah, a distinctly African featured dude.
Yeah, just a dude in the background.
You'll notice that a lot of the people in this aren't your basic.
They're not normal. Which is great.
Yeah,
I love that. I love the fish people.
Yeah, I like the bug guys. I want many of these
I think that's just like an old lady.
Yeah.
Next to, I mean, I think that might be a Krogan. I'm not quite sure.
That's not a Krogan. His waddle's not big enough.
Fair enough.
But point being that, yeah, no, this is definitely designed with people who maybe don't fall inside that a very particular archetype, like the two people who are talking about this game right now are.
That's
which is intentional.
That's
I'm
punk,
sure.
baby.
That's punk, baby.
I love the art. The art is done by, and I feel like I really want to shout this person out
Yes.
because they were really great.
Um,
Cover art and internal illustrations by Will Kirkby. Shout out to Will Kirkby for being amazing.
Chamonky
On Twitter.
Commission this man. I mean, seriously, no.
You sound like you got paid to say that.
I say whenever I see somebody have their Twitter handle on there, what that says to me is that this guy is for one thing, we can see that his work is obviously worth it, and for another thing, commission this man.
If he's open, he might be busy.
Yeah, well, he might be. Yeah, he might be busy, but like queues happen. As somebody who takes art commissions himself, like queues happen. You'll get there. Don't worry.
Lead developer Thomas Lyons. Where have I heard that name?
That's a good question.
Oh, that's the other Warhammer Weekly guy.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I know that name. Okay. I was
Anyway,
like, wait a minute, I know that. Okay.
So we've got plenty of DNA.
Yeah, this is just a this is a game designed and edited by people who really like Warhammer, which is why it's partially so interesting to me that it is so campaign and story focused.
Yeah.
Because that's something that Warhammer games have always struggled to do well. Necromunda is ostensibly narrative focused, but requires an arbitrator because it's so brokenly unbalanced.
Yes.
Things like.
But I like that about Necromunda.
I love Necromunda. We are going to play Necromunda after filming
I
this,
specifically
CJ.
like the broken aspect of Necromunda.
But I think there's something to be said for a skirmish. No.
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for a campaign game that doesn't need a judge to make it run. And like Kill Team and Warcry ostensibly have narrative modes, but
sure they do.
Kill Team's narrative mode for last edition was like absolutely non-existent, and the one for this edition is kind of eh. Yeah. Warcry's a little better, but still it doesn't have the same kind of story that these have.
No.
And we can get into why, but that's not the point of this review.
Yeah.
The point of this is to review this, not slag on GW. But it's interesting that a bunch of Warhammer nerds got together and made a game that is...
game that fills in the blanks where
Warhammer does not. Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the better things I can say about it, is that this is... If you have played GW games, this is close enough that you'll know what you're doing, but far enough that you are not playing a reskin of a GW game. Yes. Yeah, that's the only way I can put it.
I think that's a good one, yeah.
Well, that's it. So this is available at Wargame Vault.
Yep.
I believe is what it is. It's where we got ours. If you buy the physical, you get the PDF, or you can just buy the PDF. I think it's $13 for the PDF and $18 for physical.
Yeah,
it's not expensive.
No. You should definitely buy the physical because having a physical copy is always better than having a PDF just by itself.
Some people,
Well,
I'm gonna say that your mileage may vary on that one because some people just don't like physical books, and I don't blame them. I do. I love the physical.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we even printed out our PDFs until my physical gets here. Because
the problem with PDFs is that what if you run out of power?
Then the station goes dark and the bugs get you. Space Station Zero taught me that.
Anyway,
speaking of going dark, we'll
Here's
see you
us.
next time.
Don't let the bugs get you.
Or do.